Hi, welcome back to Everything Boarding School. For first-time viewers, Everything Boarding School is a community outreach effort to bring the good news of boarding school education to all corners of Asia. I am Ray Kwang, your host for today. I am an education consultant and director of Sesame Education. We are delighted to have with us Ms. Deepa Gupta, who will be sharing on the topic, how should international parents support their child through boarding school? Welcome, Deepa. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for giving me such a lovely opportunity to share my boarding school journey as a parent.
First of all, thank you for sharing your personal story on Everything Boarding School channel. To start off, can you give us a brief introduction about your relationship or your experience with boarding schools?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. This is a long time back. My son graduated 2017 from Loomis Jeffrey School. He attended 10th grade, 11th and 12th from Loomis Jeffrey, which is in Connecticut, East Coast. When I'm looking back and I'm finding it that this journey was, when I started my journey, I was very alone because I didn't know anyone back then who would have gone from my community or from my friend circle to US boarding school. So I found it very overwhelming, the whole process. However, there were in this being overseas to parent, I just couldn't create that kind of relationship, flying every time with, to the boarding school and integrating with the community. However, I really did not miss any chances to interact and, hosting the school delegates, head of the school, tea, coffee, dinners, spend time with them. So it was by doing all these things, I felt connected and belonged to the school myself.
Wow, okay. So did you move over to the US near Loomis with your child?
Oh, no. Back then, that's a good question. I would say that back then I was in Hong Kong when my child was in boarding school. So we were putting up in Hong Kong. Currently, I'm talking to you while I'm in Singapore. Yeah. So I did not move to US to answer your question. Yes.
Yep. So you mentioned your son was one of the earlier ones in your community to attend boarding school, so you didn't have a lot of data point to refer to, right? So do you think, in hindsight, right, do you think he was prepared for boarding school? What were the biggest challenges that he has to face as a first-time boarding school student?
I mean, let me confess this way that as a parent also, we didn't know much what to expect, as he was one of the earliest students to go to US boarding school. And like when I'm thinking about this question, I would just say that there are few things which might make anyone feel comfortable when they're transitioning from one place to another. Which comes to my mind is food, community, and probably since it's a East Coast, so these are the common factors where child can feel at ease immediately. So going back, I would say that Loomis Jeffrey food was good, but they did not have much of variety because he was a vegetarian student, but later they kind of provided many more varieties. Coming back to the community, we didn't, as a Hong Kong international student, we never realized that community would be cultural difference would be a big aspect for him to settle down, for him to feel prepared. But I feel back in US that time, I guess he was the only Indian child in his class or in his grade. So of course, he was very comfortable interacting with international students, but sense of belonging, sense of sharing common things with Indian student was missing. I would just say that school activities and the academic culture there made him feel integrated and belonged in that sense. And lastly, like weather, I mean, while he was going through with the food and the community and the cultural differences, the weather really did not play on his head. But once he started settling down, the weather also, because from fall to winters, right? So the weather also started playing role in his mood swings. So I think these aspects, I don't know, we were not prepared and we didn't know how to prepare him. So we both were struggling, I would say that. There he was struggling, here we were struggling too.
Yeah. So it was the first time that he lived in a place where it snows in the winter.
Yeah. Like that kind of winter. So we coming from India, Hong Kong. So we usually have winters, but not like snowfall and things like that.
So just going a little sidetrack, I hope we're not, right? So, but just to follow up some of your questions, because I think some of the points that came up were quite interesting. So you mentioned he was the only Indian student at that point. So throughout his time in Loomis, or even after he graduated, if you guys are still in touch with the school community, have you noticed more of a representation from the Indian community?
Eventually, he found Indian community in the school. They were, I would say, American Indians. So it's the same thing, but I mean, during his day, we didn't find any big difference in the percentage of Indian community.
So I think when the factors that you mentioned, right, would be the food, the weather, so more like environmental things that he needs to get used to. But did he face any challenge in terms of academics, moving from a top international school from Hong Kong to a top boarding school in America? Was the academic level quite similar, or was it a significant elevation?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, what I meant was about environmental challenges. It was that in the beginning, to settle down, these were the very primary aspects. I felt that if they were there, if they would have been in place, like food, community, weather, then the transition would have been much faster and easier. However, coming to your question about academics, since he was in Hong Kong International School, which was UK curriculum, and then he switched to US curriculum, for him it was easy adaptation for him, because he also did one transition few years back from India to Hong Kong. So he kind of like knew probably what to expect in transition, how much effort is needed. So in my opinion, there was not much of problem, if I can say that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure he was a good student. So when a student face challenges, right, be it in the environment or the food or academics, in whatever aspect, when they are so far away in a boarding school, who are the adults that they can reach out for help?
I guess he saw us transiting from India to Hong Kong. And when we moved from India to Hong Kong, we didn't know anyone. Anyone means anyone. We three were together because he's the only child. So my husband, myself, and my child. So we created our own community. We created our own network. I think hindsight, I'm thinking this, that he knew that the people around are the best support, and that they are his community. So he kind of like, because of the time difference also, during the day we are in the sleep mode, right? So he didn't have the option to call us and bother us. So I think that gave him the opportunity to connect with the peers, faculty, student body, or even the advisors. So to go and talk about his challenges.
I think that's the whole point for a student to go to a boarding school, right? It's kind of to live that familiar environment, and when you need help, you have to reach out to people that might not have been your family members or your best friends from childhood, and that is a very challenging but rewarding experience. You learn a lot from it.
And I guess while you're saying this, I feel that people being there are more resourceful because they know what kind of problem it is. While we are away, so far miles away, time zone difference, the environment is different, expectations are different. So probably sometimes we can't tune in exactly what the problem is. What are they expecting from us? So when the students approach to the advisors or the counselors or the teachers, I guess they know better, that the faculty knows better to address their challenges.
Yep. So I think that compared to when he was in Hong Kong, right, where the parents will be able to see his face every day, and if there's any problem, you can go to the school and talk to the teachers on his behalf and all that, right? So I think that is a lot easier But like you said, going to boarding school is also a transition for the parents, right? The way of parenting, because you are not as able to provide as much physical help as before. So how does the relationship between you and your child evolve as he gets more familiar with the boarding school?
To accept that your child is physically away, and that 2 miles away, and sometimes knowing the child is struggling, it's definitely heartbreaking. But at the same time, trusting in him while guiding, as well as trusting in him that he could navigate, he'll be able to navigate his way out with each challenges or with each achievements by himself. That, makes the heart feel warm also at the same time, right? And and on the other side, the child feels totally confident. He gets that confidence in himself that, hey, these are the situations, these are really not the problems, and he could, step over, take the right decisions, make the right choices, and try to evaluate his judgments. And that's how I feel this is very subtle way to give them that kind of independence in a environment which is also disciplined, right? So I feel that is a very conducive environment, and to let the child feel independent, yet they feel responsible to be in discipline.
So in what situation he would reach out to you, be it FaceTime, phone call, where he said, "Mom, I really need to talk about something"?
Like, he was always other way around. Like, he used to sort out his problem and just tell us, this happened, I did it this way, and I'm done. So if there is some tweaking we needed to do, or something we need to ask, clarify, so we used to do that. And if we used to find some gaps in his thinking, we used to fill those gaps. In case of certain situations when he was unable to think through himself, so being his morning or daytime and nighttime, he used to just leave the message that, guys, I want to talk to you. Whenever you're free or get up, just let me know. I would like to have a word. So it was never like a panic call ever.
I guess in that sense, right, what you just described is almost like when they're at home, the parents are more of in a driver's seat for the child's education, right? And when you let them go to boarding school, and when they establish themselves in the new environment, then it's more so they are in the driving seat themselves, and the parents become the passenger, being informed instead of being the decision maker, right? So was that transition difficult for you?
I've been challenged by a lot of people, a lot of friends, family people. Why did you send your child, and that you are only having a single child? Anyways, he was supposed to go for his higher education to abroad. But what made you let him go off for boarding school? So not that I was feeling anxious, he being away, people were also giving me that anxiety. But I would say that, of course, being a parent, that anxiety, overwhelmed feeling, separation was definitely there. But I would say that for me, my mother was a very big inspiration. Back then, we had 3 siblings, right? So all 3 siblings were sent for higher education to metro cities back in India. And 30 years back, I would say, India did not have that kind of telephonic conversations like now we have. The only mode of communication was letters or phone calls, and that too very limited phone calls, because we all were in the boarding school, hostels. So I would say that when she could have done it, I always think that when she could have done it in those times, being in a country which is so affluent, and the communication now is so face to face, it doesn't feel like that there is any separation. So I guess I kind of like took my inspiration from my surroundings, from my family, and that helped me going and kept me grounded also.
Yep, that's very helpful advice, I think. Because I think a lot of, as a consultants, right, a lot of times the parents will ask us, do you think my child is ready for boarding school? And sometimes we look at the family and say, I think your child is ready, but you might not be ready to let him go. So I think that's definitely very helpful for mommies or daddies, actually, that might be suffering from separation anxiety.
And I would like to acknowledge that it's a very real feeling, right? And I would just say, if I can give them a piece of nugget, is that acknowledge it. If can't deal with it, please go for professional help. That really helps, and we can set up a great example for our own children that anything can be taken care of. We don't have to linger on with that problem.
So kind of going off to another topic, right? So you have the unique perspective of having seen your child finishing boarding school as well as university. So now you have like a kind of longer term view. So what do you think was the biggest value of boarding school in your child's education journey?
As I said, that there are so many nuances in their development which, while they're away from family or direct interaction with the parents, apart from academic success, he developed these life skills, soft life skills, and he dealt with these challenges very closely, supported his friends in difficult times. He received those help from his peers in his difficult times. So I would say that he learned to trust others. He created his own network, and like meaningful network. He kind of like understood the time, like being at home, how we mothers keep nagging them, do this, you're not studying. While he was there, he had to make that judgment that the time is precious and we need to, balance academics, social life, extra activities. So that kind of transition of understanding the value of time, and also at the same time value of being with the friends, so it really made him feel that fulfilled, that he could do it by himself. And also, which is very important for him, which he learned, is how to deal with setbacks. While they're away, they have their expectations because they're all aiming for the same kind of goal, which is college, and right kind of college. Every other time, I feel that they are dealing with setbacks, either with the grades or with the heartbreaks, or there's so many aspects for their setbacks. So managing setbacks was very beautiful. I feel he has come up with this mental strength has come up, and that it's not end of the world. He has to keep on going and moving forward, seeking help and moving forward. So these life skills, I don't think so I would have prepared him so early on. We all eventually learn, there's no doubt, but so early on, that makes me feel very heart feel very warm. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever discussed this, right? Because you said it, your friends, or even you feel that he's getting some of the life skill earlier than his peers if he didn't go to boarding school, right? So did you guys ever reflect whether going to boarding school so early was the right decision, or was there any moment of doubt?
Honestly, once he was admitted and he was at the boarding school, we never brought this thought even in our head whether or not this is a good choice. So, after he graduated from school, we kind of like reflected many times what he has gone through, who he has become. So as a family, we don't have any repent or regret on this decision of ours, except that he couldn't stay with us for 3 years.
So with the benefit of hindsight, right, is there anything you wish you have done better or more to prepare him better for the challenges in boarding school?
And it gives me a smile of this listening to this question, because being an Asian parent, and that to Indian mother, I would say that I was not even, actually while he was growing up, we never had this thought that he would go to boarding school, right? So I don't know how many are familiar with the Indian culture that boys or the girls of this age, they don't work at home. It's the mummies or the helpers who provide them the comfort and all those things. So I guess I could, if I would have known a little bit that he would go to boarding school, I would definitely prepare him to manage, organize his room, table, bag better. Having said that yes, I was myself and my helper was doing all these things for him, and also bit of sense of cooking, which he doesn't have. He didn't have back then. Now he's better off. So I would say these two things also would have played a good role to settle him better or prepare him better to go to boarding school.
You talk about he didn't have to kind of manage his environment, he didn't have to manage his time, that kind of thing, right? So I think a very important skill that students gain in boarding school, or they have to learn to do, is to manage their own time, to balance the different priorities, right? So for you to be able to get into a good university, you have to be good in academic, but also good in sports, other activities, right? So how was it for him to learn to manage his priorities and time? Was it a challenge? Someone help him?
I mean, I would say that while he was in Hong Kong until ninth grade, he definitely managed his time. He definitely had very clear idea about his priorities. But what I meant to say was in the previous answer was how we keep nagging our children all the time that you said that you will be studying, but you are on the screen, or you are just reading a book. So that kind of self-awareness, that is what he developed. What I meant was back then. So now setting the priorities, he was kind of like, he knew the priorities, his priorities, time management was there. But he always used to run through with either of us, either with me or my husband, that this is what I'm doing, guys, can you just check whether or not my thinking is right? So I think we had a good communication during his boarding school, regardless of the time zone difference. We used to find time to understand his requirement, priorities, and to set priorities for each other also, because what happens is often that he's away, right? And this is very real problem which I faced once, and he categorically mentioned that, Mom, I have other things to do. You can't keep nagging me for SAT. I know it is important, but I am at boarding school. I have other responsibilities also. So when I'm saying this, what I'm trying to say that he knew his priorities. He just want us to listen and then just remind him. He gave us that leeway to keep reminding, but not nag and not get upset about it. So I'm saying remind and not nag. When I'm nagging, I guess I'm feeling upset and anxious. I'm reminding means I'm holding him responsible that, look, you decided you want me to remind you. I'm accountable for you, so I'm reminding you, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think this is very helpful advice, not only for the child, but also for the parents. I think me as a parent, I need to learn that myself.
Because he only pointed out that look, Mom, I know I have to do SAT, but we decided in our timetable, but then I am in my other responsibilities also. So thank you for reminding, but please do not get upset with me. So it was a very clear cut, his feeling he shared with me, that he's also getting overwhelmed and anxious while I am reminding. So-called I'm reminding, but it was a nag.
Got it. So how much do you get to visit him on campus or in the States?
No, I didn't visit him too much. I just visited him for when I went to drop him, and I guess in 10th grade he got some awards. So I visited him, I gave him a surprise. And then 11th grade, after his 11th grade, we took him for the college visits. And 12th, I went for his graduation. That's it.
Okay, so like one time a year?
Probably, if that is correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. So he usually come back during the holidays?
Oh yeah, he always wanted to come back for each and every holiday. Guys, you're not coming? I'll come back home. He wanted to have home cooked food.
Yeah. Yes, important. That's very important, right? So how do you feel the relationship at home has changed? Because now you have less time at home, but I guess do you treasure that time more? Do you make a point to do something special? Or
I mean, I would say I'm definitely an empty nester mother. That gave me that time allowed me to think about myself. Started my own new career as a life and executive coach. And then I would say with him, I mean, I would say that we keep sharing our pictures, our itinerary with him. He keeps sharing his, not as much the way we do, but we try to involve him in each and every conversation. I keep dropping him all what's happening back in Singapore and India. So I guess I'm trying to bridge the gap by explaining him what's happening in my world and thinking that he would also share his world to me. But sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
yep.
During boarding school, whenever he used to be home, I don't know whether it was very intuitive or thoughtful, I can't say, but I would say that we used to focus on his requirements, what he would like to do. So, for example, like my husband would always like to take him to good restaurants. Let's go out, eat good food. But on contrast, he always wanted to eat home cooked food. And then later we realized that eating out for him is every day, but eating at home is a delight to him. It's a delicacy to him. So then we realized that he whatever he needs, maybe he's not very explicit, but whatever he needs and asking to do, let's not argue and let's not overrule his desire. Let's fulfill in so that he feels comfortable at home.
Yep. I think that's very helpful advice for a lot of parents as well. As the child grow up, right, we are also constantly learning how we upgrade ourselves and our understanding.
I'm still learning though. Each phase is so different, so we keep upgrading ourselves.
So to sum up, what would be the most important piece of advice you think prospective boarding school students or parents should hear from you?
I would say to students first, parents will always be parents. They'll think about you the best for you. I mean, parents will always think the best for you, right? And for students, I'm saying that learn to ask for help. These days, I'm seeing youngsters. They maybe because of the COVID or high screen time, I'm observing that children are not seeking support. They are not reaching out to seniors or teachers for support. So ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And second, which is I feel is also very important, setbacks, because it's a very competitive world. Children with the smallest deviation in their thought process or the goal, they feel this is the end of the world. So I would say that with the consistency and perseverance, everything can be achieved. It's not end of the world. And thirdly, enjoy life. That's so important. Don't be serious all the time. And for parents, I would just say, listen to them the best. Listen to them. Less advice and listen to them. Because while they are talking, they are giving their mind. Some children talk a lot. We can hear them, but some children speak less. So I know it's very hard when they speak less, but then that's how they are made. That's how they are made. So infer in from that and ask questions, relevant questions, open-ended questions, so that they feel thoughtful. They don't feel that they're being pushed to do certain things and does not feel empowered and independent.
I have asked all my questions. Do you feel like there's anything you would like to add, or anything we have missed, or anything you have prepared that we should share?
I would just say that boarding school journey is definitely challenging, but at the same time, once it's done and we stand receiving the degree and the diploma, it's very fulfilling and it's very rewarding. And we feel that we've done the right job. So all the parents, if you're thinking about boarding school, take a wise decision. step ahead, but don't look back then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Deepa, for joining us on Everything Boarding School today. For those who are watching, do follow Deepa on her social media platforms.
Thank you.
And thank you, Deepa. We wish you and your family all the best.
Thank you so much for giving me this lovely opportunity. Thank you.
If you have enjoyed what we shared today and would like to learn more from us, please remember to like and subscribe to stay updated on Everything Boarding School. And if you have any burning questions about boarding school, leave it down below in the comments. We'll be happy to provide the answers you need. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy boarding school hunting. Bye bye.